paper out next to it because we're going to give you an outline of what's going to be happening here. For Fahrenheit.
All right.
For Fahrenheit 451, this is going to be our essay assignment. Past essay assignments that we have done, they have always dealt with thematic things that are going on within Oedipus Rex or thematic things that are happening within the Metamorphosis, where you're writing solely about the book. What we're doing for Fahrenheit 451, you are writing a little bit about the book, but you're writing more so about some kind of specific topic where you are going to be arguing a point for it. So you're going to take a topic that is connected, that is related to the book, and you're going to be researching that. So we're going to be spending, not immediately this week, but we're going to be spending a fair amount in the library, taking a look at different databases. You can see there's note cards and all that kind of stuff on there that we're going to be going with. So it is certainly going to be a process. These specific requirements that are listed down here with due dates, I'm going to give you some of the due dates. Some of them are kind of still to be determined at this point, but it kind of gives you an idea as to how things are going to be pacing out and how things are going to be going kind of point-wise. So within the storyline of Fahrenheit 451, we have connections to a lot of different kind of topics. For this assignment, you're going to select one of the topics. It says listed below. It's actually on the back. But you're going to select one of the topics and kind of brainstorm a research response to it. What you are not doing is you are not just giving information about it, but you're going to be arguing a point for it. So whether you are in favor or against. When you flip the page over, and you're not coming up with what research topic you're going to be doing right now. When you flip the page over, you see that you have 35 options to choose from. We have 22 people in class. Once a topic gets selected, that topic is off the board. So there's not going to be multiple people arguing about artificial intelligence or about cell phones in schools, digital media, all of those things. So one thing that you would want to do, and tomorrow is when we're going to try to start picking our topics, one thing that you would want to do is probably put a star or a check mark next to topics that are of interest to you. I don't know if I wouldn't make a whole draft board where you go topic 1 through 35. That's probably going to be a little bit of overkill. But try to come up with 4 or 5 topics that you have interest in. The way that the topic selection is going to work is I'll come around then with an envelope, and you're going to pull numbers from the envelope or from the bowl. That number, and listen carefully to this part so there's not confusion, that number is not your topic. So Tyler chooses number 1. That does not mean that you're doing ADHD. But what will happen is you'll have a number 1 to 22, and then that'll basically be our draft order. So if Tyler has number 1, you get pick number 1, and you can choose your topic. If you have number 22, then you get pick number 22, and that's where you go with the topic. So think about which would be some topics that you would be of interest for you. And the hope would be, in the last few years that I've done this, we haven't had any kind of issues where no one is able to kind of get any kind of topic that they would be interested in, because interests do tend to be pretty diverse. Specifically went with these topics, and you notice next to the topic is a question, because the library databases definitely have enough information and enough sources about these kind of questions that you would be able to investigate. If there is something on here, if there is something that you're interested in researching that is not on here, yes, you could potentially do that. That would be something that you'd want to talk to me about. However, you do have to be able that it can connect to Fahrenheit 451 in some form or way. And so that's the one thing that could be an issue. So if Tyler's going to do research about, I don't know, that's not going to be something that's going to be necessarily tying in with what we're looking at here within Fahrenheit. Something that we want, and also it would be approving a source or approving a topic that I know you're going to be able to find enough source material for in order to kind of substantiate how that topic is going to go. All right, a couple things here then so far for deadlines so that you are aware when things are going to be doing. Topic selection and brainstorming. Brainstorming is going to be happening via a Google form, which I'll be sending out to you in a little while. Tomorrow is when you'll have access to this. Topic selection, brainstorming via Google form. That's going to be for this Friday, February the 14th. So by Friday, we know what your topic is, and we have an idea as to what your brainstorming is going to be. Doesn't mean that that's kind of set in stone, but at least we have an idea by February the 14th what we have. That is Valentine's Day. Your preliminary bibliography, and by preliminary bibliography, we mean a list of 20 potential sources. It is going to be for February the 25th. So you're going to have a list of 20 potential sources that you're going to research. Doesn't mean they're all going to make it into the essay, because they won't. But it's at least a starting point for you when it comes to your source material. Then, everyone's favorite, your note cards.
Oh my God.
You are going to have those note cards due by March the 4th. Okay? March the 4th. So today, February the 10th, March the 4th, you can tell this is certainly going to be something that's kind of ongoing. Topic selection and brainstorm, you're going to be taking a look at 10 points. Preliminary bibliography, you're going to be taking a look at 20 points. 50 note cards is going to equal 50 points.
What if I have 100?
Hold on. When it's all said and done, and we don't have due dates yet for first draft and final paper, because that's going to be determined. Your final essay is going to be worth 150 points. So you take a look at what is here, and that's not to say there could not be some other assignments that would be related that would be happening in the meantime, but 150, 200, 220, 230 at minimum, because there's also going to be a rough draft points that you'll be looking at in the ballpark of about 20 points. You're going to be looking at about 250 points for your research paper. Right now, yes. Right now, we have, I think it's 367 points right now in class.
What's the highest?
So, 250 getting added to that 367, that 250 is certainly going to play a large part, into grades. That's not meant to be, scary by any means as to, therefore, make sure you get this done, but certainly it gives you an opportunity to kind of cement some grade. If we need to raise some grades, increase some things, this will be a way that you would be able to do that. Tyler, you're asking about what if I do 100 note cards? You got more information to pull from, but you're not getting like 50 bonus points or 3 bonus points based on the number of note cards that you do in addition to it. I'm sorry? We'll be going over the outline or the formats that you need for that note card, so that's certainly not going to be something that's going to work. But at the same time, you're not writing a paragraph for a note card. It basically boils down to, like, for the most part, one fact. It doesn't mean that it's going to be complete sentence or anything along those lines. But if you come across a chart, that has 15 different statistics on it, that chart's all going to be one note card. So you can't take something and spread it out quite in that range. You take a look down here, and we'll go over this here in a moment. Your final paper, you're probably going to be looking at about 6 paragraphs typed, which would be one more paragraph than what we normally do. Your works cited page, you're going to be pulling from 5 sources, in addition then to Fahrenheit 451. So Fahrenheit is going to be a source that everyone uses, and then you have 5 additional sources coming from there. That can be a mix of book sources, that can also be a mix of database sources. You'll have the ability to find one additional source on your own, so long as I approve of it, but you're not going like strictly just to Google, Wikipedia, locating all the sources. We want to make sure that you're getting stuff coming from the databases that are going to be valid, appropriate sources and whatnot. But we'll be spending time in the library going over those databases. We'll be setting things up for you on Noodle Tools so that you have everything that you need to be kind of set up. And then when it comes to the note cards, I'll be checking those in with you periodically. I'm not going to have something where here's Monday, and by Friday all your note cards are going to be due. You'd be checking those things in, in small increments, which we'll go over. Katie?
Is the librarian going to talk to us about Noodle Tools?
When this is always kind of subject to change, like in case something like Friday comes up with a FID day. Before we go into the library, we'll have Noodle Tools set up. Before we go into the library, we'll have your preliminary bibliography started. And Katie, make sure you got the phone down.
My bad.
And you'll have it started with like everyone having Fahrenheit 451. I'll go over some things with you ahead of time, so far as databases. Mrs. Miller will go over some things that have been added to it that I might not be aware of.
Okay.
Actually, that is going to kind of help you with it. For the most part, when you're in the library, it's going to be you working independently. Whether we're in the classroom or whether we're at the tables, I don't know. That's probably going to vary a little bit from day to day. The big thing for you to kind of think about with the whole research paper idea is, again, you not simply, like, I'm just going to say number one because it's the first one up here. It's not that you're going to be explaining what ADHD is and giving research about it as a topic, but it's the idea that you are going to be answering a question about it as to how it should be treated, medicated, things of that nature. So there is a question that you are going to pose that then you are ultimately going to answer. You might decide that you like one of the topics, but you want to switch the question. You'd have the ability to do that so long as we get it approved.
So like the topic will have like we go like the
I'm sorry, I lost you.
Like they pick your topic, or that on the board, like everything.
Listen up.
So that we prepare
No, what you basically you are going to have and some of these are more direct than others. Okay, ADHD doesn't ever get mentioned directly within Fahrenheit 451. But when it comes to medications, when it comes to the way that schooling is being done, you know, we can kind of make connections, infer that there would be something with Fahrenheit. You're going to pull two examples from the book that will pertain to the relevance of this, but you are not going to be writing about this is why Guy Montag has ADHD or does not. This is why Millie has it or does not. Honestly, there's Fahrenheit 451 is going to kind of serve as the overall basis, but most of your stuff, most of your writing is going to be completely independent of what's going on within the book. And that's something where it might even kind of be a little bit as part of an attention grabber. Max, phone.
Sorry.
Could be part of your attention grabber that you would kind of be linking those things in. I don't want you to pick a topic or avoid a topic because of Fahrenheit. Because Fahrenheit is going to be such a small sliver of it, it would be silly to have that be the basis as to why you should or should not. Okay?
When do we get to the library?
Our first day in the library will be next Thursday. We don't have school next Monday because of President's Day. We'll finish some things in here on the 19th and the 20th, on the 18th and the 19th, and then the 20th and 21st is when we'll start. Which is why, when it comes to your note cards, you know, it's so far down the road because of, you know, the amount of time for when we get to be in the library. At the earliest, I would say your paper is probably going to be due around the end of March. So probably that last week of March, so to speak, would be where essay would ultimately be coming in. So this is certainly something long-term that we can look at. Any questions about what's on the board? Guys? Tyler, you got line paper? You need it right now. All right, so on fresh sheet of paper. At the very top, all I need you to put down, and this will go into notebook, into that notes section. I'll have it listed when we do our notebook check, which you'll be getting in the next week or so. I just need you to put down research paper format. Research paper format. Wait for my paper here to load up. So, research paper format. I'm going to put slash structure. It's up to you if you want to include that or not. Basically, what I want to go over you with is just this is how your research paper is ultimately going to look long term, so that when it comes to us organizing subtopics and coming up with points that you want to be able to research, you have an idea where you need to be headed with this. How many paragraphs total? You're looking at 6. So it's going to be a little bit lengthier than what we've done for the other essays, but it's not that this is turning into a 6-page, a 7-page, an 8-page research paper. That is not where we're ultimately going with this. So literally, paragraph order. We're going to have introduction. What would be some key things that we've included in our introductory paragraph so far throughout the year when we've been mentioning things like metamorphosis or Oedipus Rex? We have some kind of hook, some kind of attention grabber. We're not going to use the question as the hook, but certainly we're going to kind of introduce the relevance of the topic. So, introduce relevance of the topic / issue. Brief background overview. And then ultimately you're going to have, our thesis, which really is going to be stating your position on the issue. So, introduce relevance of the topic or issue. Brief background / overview of what that issue is, and then you're going to have a thesis where you are stating your position on the issue. So you are taking a stance, you're making a point, you're arguing. So if you're taking a look at but you're taking a look at number 13, driverless vehicles. Do the benefits of driverless vehicles outweigh the risks? You could do something like driverless vehicles should be part of mainstream America in the near future. Driverless vehicles are too dangerous and should not be utilized by Uber or other companies or whatnot. So you are stating your position when it comes to that thesis on the issue. Okay, where do you stand? What is your overall position with it? Then, when we get into your body paragraphs, number 2, all of the issues that are being stated here are debatable. People can take affirmative, people can go against it. So what you are doing is, in your second paragraph, you're still kind of introducing the overall significance, but you are going to explain the controversy that surrounds the issue. So why is this something that is controversial? Why do people care? So basically, why does it matter? Why do people care about it? Why do people care about whether or not they think video games are too violent?
It's violent
Why are we worried about violence?
because it impacts little kids' behavior.
So there's a belief by some, and you could say that it is correct, you could say that it is incorrect, but you could be taking a look, okay, there's a concern about exposure to violence.
Do you got something to say to me?
Max, look at me. So you're taking a look at what that issue is. Now, by you stating what the controversy is, that does not mean that you're necessarily going to agree with it, because this is your argument, this is your stance. So you could be going that the violence in video games is entirely blown out of proportion, and here's my explanation as to why. But you are at least acknowledging or addressing both sides. So there is going to be an acknowledgement of both sides of the argument. Acknowledgement does not equal agreement. So just because I am acknowledging this is what the other side says or this is what the other side believes, it doesn't mean that I agree with it. I'm not asking you to change your viewpoint. So you're explaining the controversy that's kind of going along with this. So say I'm taking a look at something like the legalization of drugs. People could be about for recreational use. People could be against the legalization of drugs because could be concerned about what would be the health effects for it. Some people are going to be in favor of the legalization of drugs because the argument could be that the government doesn't have the right to regulate personal well-being. Another argument that people would have for the legalization of drugs is what does it do financially? They could say that there's tax money coming in. So again, what you're doing really in this first paragraph, this first body paragraph, you're establishing the controversy that's surrounding the issue. You're letting us know why does it matter, why do people care. You're acknowledging that there are two sides to this argument, and here's kind of like the main things that both sides are looking at. Ultimately, what do you have to do with those two sides? You have to decide you're going to pick one. And when it comes to choosing one of your sides, now is when you're going to get into your elements of support. So, for paragraphs 3 and 4, they're going to look pretty similar. Now, you are arguing, it's going to be an argument for your specific and desired position. And I put desired in there so that you know that you are choosing what it is that you want to argue. I'm not going to go, Keith, you have to take this side. Jenna, you have to take this side. Max, you have to argue this side. You're ultimately making that decision. I might let you know, hey, I think this side will probably have more sources for it, but whichever side you want to choose, the arguments that we're going with are ones that we know we got enough legitimate source material to back it up. So argument for your specific desired position. When it comes to an argument, you got to make sure that you certainly are going to have reasons for support. Generically speaking, what kind of elements of support can you find for these questions? Like what would be types, what would be like genres kind of like of types of sources, arguments that you'd be looking for? Think of like the bike share article. What was one of the big types of evidence that they used for the bike share? There was a ton of statistics. So when it comes to reasons for support, and this is going to vary from topic to topic, it could be statistical evidence. There could be research studies. There could be expert kind of like testimonies. There can also be logical reasoning. When we were watching the video before reading Fahrenheit 451, statistical evidence. When we were watching the video about digital addiction before we were going over Fahrenheit 451, you remember the kid that went into Utah, how many days?
A whole month.
He was there for like 40 plus days. So he was there for a long time. One of the main things that the doctors were looking at was how his brain activity had certainly changed. And so depending upon the argument that you're taking, you might use that as example. You're coming from expert testimony, research studies, things like that. Some of you could be taking a look at logical reasoning. Well, if you remove a kid from playing video games, something that he was doing for X amount of days, months, years, and you put him in the wilderness for 40 to 50 days, there is going to be a change in brain activity no matter what. That doesn't necessarily mean that his addiction has totally changed. So not everything that Tyler or anyone uses is solely going to be source dependent. There is certainly going to be some of your own logical reasoning that's going to be coming into it. Tyler, question?
I was just going to ask if there was like an argument against digital addiction.
Huh?
Is there an argument against what were you with digital addiction?
Oh no, I was just saying that. It was like kind of an argument against it.
Yeah. So one of the things that certainly, an argument that you could end up writing about, which is certainly going to be pertaining to Fahrenheit 451, are people in today's day and age addicted to social media or addicted to technology? You could certainly take the argument that no, they are not. And it doesn't mean that you have to agree with like Bradbury's purpose, statement, argument with the book and go, this is why he's right, you could end up going, this is why he's wrong. Zach was asking about, okay, incorporating Fahrenheit 451. You have to have at least 2 examples coming from the book. But you could use those examples coming from the book as to why they're exaggerated, as to why it's not realistic, as to how, no, nothing like this would happen where firemen are going to be starting fires and burning down books. Just because you're saying, yes, technology is good, doesn't mean that, the old way is automatically wrong. So, again, I'm not trying to force you into one specific kind of idea that you'd have to do. When you're going to do this in one paragraph. And then what are you going to do next? The whole thing again.
Are you kidding me?
No, being pretty serious with it. Where'd it go?
Are we doing it 3
So-
times?
No. So when it comes to your fourth paragraph, not fourth body, but fourth paragraph, you're going to do the argument again. So argument number 2, and it's just going to be same as above. So I mentioned legalization of recreational drugs. What were the 2 main reasons that I said as to why someone could be in favor of legalization? What's one of those, Zach? Okay, so and don't write this on your paper, all right? But for my first argument, I could be taking a look at tax revenue funds. This would be the financial ramifications of it. The second argument then that I'm doing for argument number 2, same as above, I could be looking at, personal well-being rights. So when you're asking, like, not Max, not like asking, but saying you're doing the whole thing again, you have 2 different subtopics that I'd be addressing within each paragraph. So one paragraph is going to be, here's one reason why I'm for this. Second paragraph, here's another reason why I am for this. What would be a reason that I could be in favor of driverless vehicles?
You don't have to. You can sleep.
Could allow for multitasking on the way to work. So maybe you could be working on
You can
some.
text and drive.
You could be doing something where you are collaborating with business partners on your way to work. It also, when it comes to driverless technology, it could be an increase in jobs that would be taking place for it. So whatever you end up looking at, you're going to have at least 2 main subtopics that are going to be supporting it. So you are going to have when it says same as above, you're going to have the same things for reasons of support because you're going to have 2 different subtopics that are going on. Tyler, what did you say about a counter argument? Yeah. So, 5th paragraph, counter argument. With the counter argument, you are then addressing the opposing viewpoint. Here's a place where people sometimes get confused. I'm asking you to address the opposing viewpoint. I'm not asking you to agree with the opposing viewpoint. I'm not asking you to change your argument. But I'm asking you to take a look at what the other side is saying, and then you are explaining why their argument is less persuasive. So I'm addressing the opposing viewpoint. When I'm addressing them, I might be looking at faulty logic or reasoning. I might be simply kind of explaining why this argument is less convincing. But I'm taking a look at what that opposing side is, and then I'm basically going, here is the problem with that, here is the problem with that, here is the problem with that. That's why it doesn't stand up to what my argument is. So I'll get to you in 15 seconds max. In the first body paragraph, I kind of address what the controversy is. I'm now explaining why I'm in favor of my position. And then at the very end, I do a counter argument where I acknowledge the opposing viewpoint. I address it by explaining what would be the problem with that position. Back
So
to
like,
you. Bless you.
I'm so good at arguing, but like, I can't write a paper about arguing.
What,
Fine, you got
What-
extra crumbs there.
Max, what's going to happen when we do the brainstorming? So, like, verbally, you're good at arguing. You're going to come up, just as if you would be speaking to me or someone else about it. We got a couple more things we're going to write down. Keep the notes out. You're still going to be addressing, like, what would be those points that you would verbally want to kind of talk about. So that's going to set up the overall structure of your essay. What's going to happen then with that research, you're just going to simply back up what that argument would be that you would normally be verbalizing. I mean, yes, a written argument is different than a verbal one, but the whole ideas that you would be using, that certainly would not change. Very last part that I'm going to be doing after my counter argument, conclusion. So I have an intro, I have 4 body paragraphs, I have conclusion. We'll talk a little